pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So what I wanted to do, I did invite Nick and Bob Teneski here tonight for the two selectmen. And this is with fire services as it relates to the motion that you have in front of you. Last week, called a special, we tabled this item and we ended up rescheduling for today just to try to get to the Board of Finance meeting tomorrow. But they're just, I think there's just some overarching, just items that we need a little bit more information about. Specifically, what do the costs include? What specifically are we going out to bid for? So in terms of the process, today I let Bob Teneski and legal counsel know that I was going to be recommending that we table this yet again. I just feel like we're rushing a little bit too much without specific information on costs, on specific information about what we're looking at as a project. I've heard a lot from not only the two of you, but also the chairman of the committee, building committee, and I feel it's important that we have this, either table this for another meeting.
I would make a motion that this item be tabled based on your comments and discussion with the town attorney.
I'd like to, I'll second, I'd just like to have some discussion on that before we adjourn. So I'll second.
And I would like to, and let me just finish,
Yeah, go ahead.
because this will lead into the next piece. Why we have the motion as second and why the information was, just knowing that the other building committee that, Glenn, you've been a part of, and knowing that we're in no rush, we need to get this right. We need to make sure that the taxpayers get, we represent the taxpayers, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the RTM. And the last thing I want to do is look like we're just trying to hurry up, let's get this thing in. And that's not what we've done all along. So this is why when I wrote to the chairman out of courtesy today, after the holiday, and thinking about this, I just felt like it was important for us to table this today until we get updated and recommend to the architect and Downs and get the figures updated and make sure that we get the correct figures in front of us, or figures in front of us, before we make a decision as a group. And I don't think we had that. And I didn't want to put, the committee, I don't want to offend the committee, because I know the committees work really hard, we know all that, but it just seems like there's some details, really important ones, that a lot of people are asking, including us. And I feel like we need to table this until we get real numbers in front of us. And I mentioned it to legal counsel, and I told him what I felt like I needed to do as the first selectman to just slow this down a little bit so we have a chance to see what we're actually putting forward. So that's why I wanted to do this, is why I want to table and get a financial scale of what's happening.
Well, in addition to your comments, there are a couple of things that have come into play as well. The committee and the architect and the construction manager had indicated that they would be able to hopefully have the building enclosed somewhat by November, which would expedite the construction process to eliminate some of the temporary heating costs that would be required if we go beyond that point and we have a particularly hard winter. The schedule that was presented at the committee meeting today now doesn't support the enclosed building in November. It's more like January, which will somewhat impact construction, has the potential to impact construction costs. And the completion, based on their current schedule, is now August of 26 next year. So I agree with the first selectman that we need to get all the numbers and get them right. Originally, the hope was that we would get out to bid and base the bonding on the bid numbers. That's not going to happen. We'll have to use the construction drawings, which are now finished and in the hands of the appropriate people. The problem with that is the construction drawings, you sometimes don't present an accurate picture for funding. So we are where we are. We'll have to make the best of it and make sure that we are diligent to move things along, to minimize the impact and finish in a timely manner.
I wanna grab Craig, go ahead, Craig. Before we get to-
Actually, I'd like to ask, Selectman Buckle, you said you're looking at, if things were to move starting today, the building would be enclosed by August of 26?
The original plan was to have the building enclosed by November of this year.
Right. Where are we
Because
now?
of a number of impacts, that's not gonna happen, and the construction schedule that was presented to the committee today calls for that now, not in November, but that's delayed until January of 26.
January 26th, I thought I heard August of 26th.
Well, August of 26 is the proposed completion date.
Okay.
And Dick, I appreciate you getting back to me as well. I wrote the note too, I stamped it in today too, because I want to make sure that the chairman's, I'm not questioning the building committee's efforts. That's 50 meetings later, 2.5 years later, I'm not doing that, but what I'm doing is, we need to tighten up all these little gaps here with the financing, with how much this is gonna cost, what does it include, and everyone has to be on the same page, which everyone is. No one's saying, like, I haven't got a lot of people saying, no, don't do it. I'm not. I'm getting, how much is it gonna cost and why? And I think that's really, so I appreciate the time that you took with me. And for me to come in, set up a special meeting, and table it right away after when I talked to you about it, I was concerned. I just don't feel good about it. I feel like why rush now, when there's so many questions? Got Ted's email, I got Mary's email, on top of Glenn's already done one of these, so I just feel like I needed to table this for now until we have numbers in front of us. And I think, I'm not gonna speak for the board, but I'm gonna speak for myself, for the board, because I don't think any of us can vote on something of this magnitude without details. And I think I'll hand that back over to Selectman Muckle or Selectman Antanasio to comment or not comment.
Well, just to reinforce your comment about the diligence of the committee, I don't know what the exact number of the meetings are, but round numbers will say 50 to 55. The dedication and commitment of the committee has been very, very strong. We've had one meeting in all over that schedule that we have not had a quorum, so that's a compliment to all the members of the committee. That being said, I have no further comments.
Greg, you wanna go ahead and follow up?
Yeah, I was planning to make my own motion to table today. So I'm glad you beat me to that. Makes life easier, I feel. I think we need to do due diligence. You said a lot of the things I was going to say.
It's scary, isn't it?
Sometimes, yeah, I guess. But yeah, looking at complete construction drawings, right, that would give us an indication of what our finish schedule is, right? It seems like maybe some of the building committee has some of that, but I haven't had a chance to review. I've seen some floor plans and some elevations, but the devil's in the details with the finish schedules and how that all plays out. It's also a matter of, I'm sure the committee's very well informed of what they're doing and what objectives they're trying to achieve. I remember I was on the Fire Service Ad Hoc Committee when I was on the RTM before I came here, and I voted to the affirmative to have this happen, right, as part of that committee. And so I want to see it come to fruition. I think the issue here is the obvious though, right? You don't go to the bank and take out a loan. The bank might not even give you a loan if you don't really have a finished schedule, a plan of where you're going, right? And so we owe that to the taxpayers, in that they'll have to pay that loan. And that's what we were here to vote to do today. So I would feel a lot better about making a decision on a bond approval if we knew those details. And I know that they've met tons of times. But I think we need time to actually go through those numbers too, since we are making the recommendation and doing the bond ourselves. And we need time with it. Looking at a set of plans tonight, I wouldn't make a decision about my own house that way. I don't think we should make one with $12 million of taxpayer money in the same manner. So when we do adjourn to tackle this, and my hope and intent is that we do come back to eventually bond a project, we understand exactly what the scope is. One of my concerns is scope creep. Again, I haven't been to the meetings, I'm not part of that committee. But those are the things I think we need to look at. We also need to look at what's not there. Do we have areas for decontamination? Do we have things a community like this might need with a nuclear power plant? So it's not only just what can we take away, right, or in terms of money, but what do we actually, what's missing, what do we need to add? I think we really need to have that dialed in to make a good decision, especially when we're talking about something this wide in terms of financial burden for the town.
Well, the architect
Encumbrance for the town, I should say.
The architect has significant experience in design of firehouses across the state from northwest to southeast and likewise diagonally from corner to corner. And they are fully aware of the fact that we have millstone to contend with. So I'm confident that they'll include all the necessary facilities that are required to meet those standards.
What I'm thank you both. Preparing a detailed cost estimate is the only thing I feel like I can't go before the Board of Finance without it. They can't either, and I think going next week to the RTM without a detailed cost estimate off of things of this nature, without the list in front of us, which we kind of mentioned. So in terms of the RTM, I know the moderator just came, but it's just not, the one thing we've done really well with all of our bonding projects, we've kept all three funding bodies on the same page. And everything was pretty much unanimous, we're all supporting it. We won't, because we'll all be fractured if we don't do this specifically accurate to the actual detailed cost estimates. That's all. And I wasn't trying to criticize your team that was over there, Rich, doing the work. I think it's just makes sense that we know what we need. I know what I need, and I know it's the same thing you guys need.
There's a reason there's a process, right? It's checks and balances. And I think the RTM was looking for some reports back, and there's procedure and process that I think should be followed. And I feel much better making a decision, behind this table with you gentlemen, if that was handled accordingly.
Yeah. Here's my final, just to follow up. I'm trying not to confuse the two separate things. You know what I mean? This is the building committee. It was formed 2.5 years ago. The report is not inclusive or beforehand, so I do remember that, but it's important. And we have a new director. We actually have a new director we haven't even talked about.
Yeah.
So let's have the new director look at all of this and give him a month or so, or 2 months, whatever it is, give him time to really get his arms around the vision and where we're heading. Because this person may say, I don't agree with any of all of you. You're not the experts, I am. So I just need to make sure he was well versed in the interview process about this. It's very, not complicated, but there's a lot of moving parts to it. So this gives us time to take a deep breath, not to put everyone under the gun and in May or early June to say, hey, you gotta vote on this. What are we voting on? So anyway, that's why I needed to make sure I wrote the letter and I stamped it in so he would get that. And that's why I emailed it to you and Bob before your meeting today, because I didn't want to look like I was not respecting the building committee at least. So anyway, that's where I was at.
The other factor that's very important in this process is the fact that the bonding requirements or the bonding process, we had hoped to submit the bonding request based on the actual bids. That can't happen because of the bonding process. So we go to the bonding process with the construction drawing number, which leaves the door open for the possibility of some changes.
Except if I may?
Yeah, please.
even though at the committee, while you were there, even though there's, it's an uncertain world, and so we don't know what the bids are gonna come in at. It's, a function of which contractors are open now, but, and by the way, part of the if you will, sense of urgency, everybody has known, the committee has discussed extensively that, this project is gonna be more expensive than a project that might have gone forward, 5 or 10 years ago. And so there's been, built into the discussions, there's always been, we need to do this as soon as possible, break ground and get it done. In January, the building committee had Downs's estimate based on conceptual drawings. Then it had hoped to use a bid number to nail a number down and go for bonding on that. Kim and the bond council say, no, that you can't do it that way. We have to do it like the Hartford Road, where the 15.6 or 15.8 million was bonded, then it went out to bid. So when Downs said late last week that the drawings are in now from SBA, and in 3 or 4 weeks they can have construction drawing estimates based on the construction drawings, which aren't going to be they're not going to be a guarantee that that's what's the bid is going to come at, but they're more. Both Downs and David Stein for SBA said, half an hour ago, that those construction drawing estimates are a higher order of magnitude of accuracy than the January conceptual drawing numbers. That's what this is all about, because the bid option is not available. Basically, I look at it that, the building committee that Glenn was on, and all those other wonderful people, they had a 2-year notebook from Barton and Longadouce that different, it's not apples to apples. This is, design and put out to bid. That's design build that the Hartford Road. So it was somewhat different process. But Barton worked with that committee, the Hartford Road committee, for 2 years, meeting with staff, meeting with the committee, coming up with what the requirements were for the building, and then doing cost estimates for each element. And that was the basis for going out to bond for the 15.8 million. What I think Rob is proposing is to try to get as close to the package that Barton provided, to these 3 decision makers as is available, and that the best numbers available now, short of having a bid number, is the construction drawing. And we're, it's not like it's going to be 6 months or a year. It's 3 or 4 weeks. So to gain that higher level of of accuracy and reliability, plus, apparently the building committee, which is immersed in this for 48 meetings, they're way out ahead of other decision makers in terms of familiarity with, why they made decisions and all of that. So it would seem as though giving it a little more time, even though, and by the way, the only thing I'll mention is, I know Kim said last week as we were putting the notices together, part of why she was anxious to go and get authority for bonding was the volatility of the rates. So she was like, everything has, it's all about balancing, the different risks. And so if
But that could not be our driver, which is now why, after all, I think all of us since last week have, feel the same way, same with the emails that we've received and calls and this and that. I think that's why, when somebody, when one push, it's good that she's aware and that, the rates are very important, but can't do it. Can't do it without this information, and we're at a standstill until we get it. Really. Not that I'm not supportive of it, it's just having this next piece of information is critical, so.
Then hopefully, once it comes in, all the bodies, the 3 bodies,
will cooperate. If they have to have special meetings, then hopefully people will see that every week, every month is in fact important, both for, you know, the construction schedule and the ultimate financial impact.
And the volatility of material costs is another issue too,
Yeah.
that we don't have any control over.
And it's impossible to predict right now.
Okay.
We did not deal with any of that back on the municipal complex. The rates were low,
Right.
the markets were, you know, they're not churning like they are now, so God bless Teneski and his committee.
Right. But it could be a school, and we'd be sitting there saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It could, you know what I mean, like, it's,
Yep.
so getting this right, where we're all talking, we're all communicating, and we're all like on the same page of what we should be prioritizing time-wise. I understand where Kim was coming from, I get it, I totally got it, this is why I was gonna move, you know, in a favorable direction in terms of this, but you can't, once it all gets put on paper, we didn't have it. So that's why I feel, you know, I feel we need to do this. I do wanna, you know, we do have one piece of maybe it's clarification. I did not read the motion in and didn't table it officially. Do I need to do that in terms of this meeting?
Yes.
Because I will. And do I need to read the entire thing? That's why I was like,
No, you can
I
get a
can
motion
just-
to waive the reading of the full resolution.
I think that would be great if, we could entertain a motion to consider and act on a resolution recommending an appropriation bond for the construction of a new town of Waterford, Oswegatchie Fire Station, and waive the rest of the reading of the motion.
Second,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
To officially read it into the motion so we can table it officially.
Yeah, I understand. What did we table? This is.
Well,
Didn't do anything yet, but the motion is to waive the full reading of the resolution.
Yeah, as opposed to having Rob read the whole.
Yes.
So moved.
You moved it, you seconded, now we have to vote on it.
No, somebody on the second, I moved that.
He moved it.
Oh, you moved it? I
He
thought,
moved it.
alright.
I'll second it if you want me to.
Fine, second.
I'll second it.
Go ahead, second.
All right, I'll second if you want. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now to vote on that motion.
Vote to table that motion.
Table that motion. You wanna make that motion?
I made the motion.
Thank you.
Move the table.
You're moving to table the motion.
Yes, that's correct.
Right, second.
Okay. Any other, like, further, do you have any?
Yeah,
How about another couple of comments?
I really, you know, when we do this again, I think construction drawings would be helpful. I think that really zeroes in on what your costs are gonna be, and that's where the rubber meets the road, and you have to make tough decisions, like you would if you're a homeowner or a business owner, right? Like, hey, are we gonna do asphalt shingles, or do we want the metal roof, right? How are we gonna do this? And I think those are really important details, and they can long-lasting impacts on project costs, and in terms of PM, and in terms of initial capital costs, and those are decisions that need to be weighed and measured appropriately. So having that information in front of us, I think, is critical to making a good decision for this board. And I would just, I hope that when we do meet to do this again, we have all the information, we've had time with it, we're comfortable with it. And maybe it'll take us a couple meetings to get through it. I'm open to coming a couple times off schedule to go through this, to make sure we're in a good place for the town.
Good. Rich?
The only thought that remains in the back of my mind, that was touched on briefly at the building committee meeting, we've already said that accurate or exact numbers at this point are not available. And when I pressed the architect to give a ballpark number or a percentage of what the likelihood of those numbers changing between the CD drawings and the bid drawings, he estimated there was a 40% chance that they would change significantly. What significantly is anybody's interpretation. This is gonna be a very complex and complicated process.
Okay. That's fair enough, but I think now, before it goes to us, and, because what we're doing, we're not voting to, like, this can go right to the RTM. You know, literally, it's a bonding resolution. It's nice when all of us decision makers are a part of it, because it goes smoother for a town when we're all representing different constituents, or all constituents. So I think by doing this now, to Selectmen Antanasio's point, in terms of having things in front of us, There are gonna be, listen, we have to make choices, there's needs and wants, what we've talked about since day one on this. There's needs and wants. We're starting to get a little bit more to wants now, just because of, you know, the economy, and it's no surprise to anyone else. But I want you to I'm gonna say this emphatically, that I'm absolutely still on board on this, of this project. So I don't want you or the committee to feel that I'm not, it's just, we need to check off a few more boxes. Go ahead.
And the new Director of Fire Services, I had the opportunity to spend some time with him, had a lengthy conversation about many issues. The fire station, the number of fire stations, their location was part of that conversation. And I think I can safely say that he is absolutely committed to where we are and the number we have. He also had, and Rob, you're probably familiar with this, he basically laid out a plan or a vision, his vision of what the fire service in Waterford would, could, and should be. That's a very interesting package.
Go ahead, Nick.
Just a suggestion that I would extend to make to both the Board of Selectmen and to the Board of Finance as well.
And RTM,
And
there's
RTM,
moderators
certainly.
here, minority leaders
You
here.
know, the building committee has been immersed for 48 meetings. Just a thought, in this, maybe putting this period while the drawings, estimates are created, you know, how about a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the building committee, so that this information that may be, you know, so that, you know, Rich has been part of it, but, the two of you, you know.
No, we're not privy, and this is why it's a little.
Right. So that might, a meeting, and same thing with the Board of Finance and the building committee, might help to close this information, to the extent there's any information gap about why, you know, heated floors or bifold doors or whatever else. Hear firsthand from the building committee, which considered various options and opted to recommend certain things. To hear from people who've lived it, maybe before you have, the ultimate decisions have to be made. But just a thought, there's time to do that if folks are so interested.
Okay. Hey, Paul, when do you meet next for the RTM? No, after that. Is it August?
August.
You know, just from my perspective on the building committee, Rob, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, so folks, just so you know, the next regular meeting of the RTM is Monday, and then the following one would not be until August, so it's not a joint meeting, it's our regular meeting.
Right.
Now, what I wanna remind you folks that also on the agenda item, because it's not in front of me, is they were supposed to have a presentation from the ad hoc special fire services committee meeting, which I think should move forward, because that will help shed the light on anything future that may be going on regarding the Oswegatchie. I think that draft report, or that report that is on, I think it's agenda item number 6, I could be wrong, is extremely important to provide information both to the RTM members as well as to the public that attends that meeting.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Thank you. Go
I
ahead, Susan.
understand, thank you. I understand what Nick was saying, but, standard procedure when there's a building committee and a bidding thing is for the building committee to make a presentation to the elected boards, not a joint meeting where everybody votes in and does motions. So they bring the information, yeah.
Yeah, the municipal building committee was a creature of the RTM. We reported back to the RTM, and anybody else who was interested could come listen. I mean, it wasn't, I actually think I do think that's the way to go.
Yeah. You could
That
ask
way
them to
everybody
do
can
all
hear the
the
same thing and all at once. And it doesn't need to, I don't think it needs to be a joint meeting. I do think it needs to be a meeting of the RTM scheduled to listen to that presentation.
Right.
And then
What about the
then the
Board of
bonding will come back.
Going to that point, what did the Board of Finance, what would their role be? You're like us, you're like the first, you're like the Board of Selectmen in this, in a way. How, would you
Well-
guys, would you guys attend the RTM as?
That's what I would, that's what, the
You
way
wouldn't
I think
host a
it would
meeting,
go.
you
We
wouldn't-
we would not need to,
Yeah.
because like you said, the bonding resolution goes directly
The RTM.
to the RTM.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
again, for it to come through and us vote on a resolution, I don't have a problem with that either.
Right.
Just so that the Board of Finance is on record as, you know, this is, we think these numbers are financially responsible, but that's our opinion.
That's been the past practice,
And it's,
apparently.
yeah, but not required for the thing to go, but,
Yeah. But you did that for the last building committee.
I believe,
Yeah.
I believe we did,
And for
yeah.
the schools, I understand,
Yeah.
talking to my Rob, that's been the past practice.
Right.
All three bodies.
But
Way-
again, that, to separate the two, anything informational
Yeah.
should be a meeting of the RTM where the building committee addresses the RTM to provide the information. The bonding thing should come back the way that it was set up now. A resolution should come back to the Board of Finance, and we'll vote on it as a resolution.
I also think that if you look at the past practice, like Glenn is saying, and we keep hearing this more and more, people want more public involvement. You get more public involvement by having the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the RTM meet. We've been constructively criticized, if you will, that they want more public participation. There's not a lot of public at this meeting, but to have the leaders of the town vote on it, and then the other leaders from the Board of Finance vote on it, gives the townspeople or citizens more opportunity to participate other than one RTM meeting. So although there's past practice of how things are done, if you want more public input, the best way to do it would be to go from this body to the Board of Finance if it's just a resolution, and then to the RTM, so it gives the citizens ample time to participate, if that's the role of this body.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback, Sue, thanks for the feedback. Glenn, thanks. We do have a motion on the table, and we have a second. All those in favor of postponing this?
Yeah, when do we think we would have the information and the construction drawings done and accurate?
Second month?
Yeah.
I think June 25.
So a month from now, we get it.
23 June.
I'd be happy
CD
to,
estimate and
We're meeting in July.
reconciliation.
I'd be happy to attend any presentation, whether it's in front of this body or another, just to,
Yeah.
hear it.
What we can do then, what I'll do is I'll schedule, basically special meetings for us, so we can all kind of, this is why we're reluctant to attend illegal meetings and hosting the meeting, we can all attend, we can all go. So I'll make sure that we can all attend all the meetings that go on, in case we all pop up at the same one, okay? I'll do that through Shannon. And I agree, I think the more we're part of those other meetings too is helpful. Okay, any other follow-up on that?
No.
Any other follow-up, Rich, on this? Thank you. Thanks for the participation for everyone, too. We have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.